especially today with so much going on and so much bad news. It is more important than ever that we recognize and seek out those little moments that give you hope, that give you promise, that give you joy. We need, those are precious things.
Greetings and welcome to this special interview where I'm honored to be sitting down to talk with and about the legend herself, Milwaukee broadcasting royalty, the queen of Civic Media, the wonderful and talented Jane Matenaer.
What an intro. Can we stop there?
Sure, we're
Let's
done.
just
Let's go.
end it there. Goodbye, everybody. It's been great.
Jane, it's a real treat to be talking to you today. We're going to take some time to reflect on your 40 plus years in radio and celebrate your remarkable career. And we are doing this because why, Jane?
I am retiring after 44 years in radio. It's time. It's time. And this was always the plan. I'm going to be 66 shortly after the first of the year. And when I first started at Civic Media, even at that point, I knew that I wanted to retire by about the time I got to be 66. So this has always been in the works. Management has always known this. Sorry, detractors, they're not firing me. They're not pushing me out. They're not forcing me out. This is my decision. And it's time for my next chapter. I don't want to be the Nancy Pelosi of radio. Get her out of here.
Well, I'm here to convince you otherwise. That's what I'm doing today. I'm sitting here. I'm just going to try to talk you into staying.
Into staying a little longer.
Because I've had such a wonderful time getting to know you, getting to share some time on the air with you.
It's been so much fun.
And that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to just sit for an hour and tell you all of the ways that you shouldn't leave. Don't leave me, Jane.
Oh,
Don't
God.
leave us.
Well, I am very much hoping to stay involved with Civic Media in some way, shape, or form. I love this company. I love what our company is doing. We'll get to that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But no, I am just so grateful for the 44 years that I've had and to have the opportunity to say goodbye. It's a rarity. It is.
Yeah. Well, and we want to make the best of that opportunity here. And so we talked about different ways that we can do this, and we just decided to sit down and talk about your career for a little bit.
Let's just talk.
And just reflect on those 44 years you've had behind the microphone, an amazing career here in and around Milwaukee and speaking to folks all across Wisconsin. And so as we, get into it here, I want to reflect on those years. And so I think let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Let's start at the beginning. What drew you to pursue a career in radio?
I was a theater major, and I always wanted to be an actress. When I was a little girl, it was either actress, singer, or ballerina. I am not that coordinated. And actually, we started doing plays when I was a kid. We would put on plays for my parents in the chapels of the funeral home on Christmas Eve. This started when I was very, very small, and it was a way to keep I'm the youngest of 6, and this was a way to keep all of us out of our parents' hair as they were getting things ready on Christmas Eve, and we would go downstairs to the chapels of the funeral home and practice our play and then put on our plays on Christmas Eve. It was a tradition we did for decades. So I already had that bug, and then I went to college, and I was a theater major, and after I was in it for about a year, I thought, being an actor requires moving constantly and always searching for that next job. And I wanted something that was going to give me a little bit more stability. Yeah, so I chose radio. That was really smart.
A notoriously stable industry.
Yes.
Especially in the time that you've been in the mix.
Exactly. Yeah. But to me, too, radio was always mind theater.
Sure.
Back in the day when I started, there were no cameras and you couldn't see disc jockeys. And so to me, that was an opportunity to be theater of the mind. And I could do different silly accents and different silly voices and be a different character. And then the audience got to fill in the blanks with their imagination. And that's what I've always loved about radio. It's like reading a book. I always find the book is better than the novel. I think radio is mind theater, and I think it's a little bit better when you get to fill in the pictures by yourself.
I mean, it's so interesting to think about it in that context too, because it's so much of that has changed
Absolutely.
over the time.
Well,
But
and
I
I
think
think
if you get back to it, like you're saying, the book versus the movie thing, you still prefer, like, I don't know, let's say a podcast to a live stream or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, cameras in the studio now have taken some of the magic away from radio because now you see what goes on behind the scenes where we used to be able to do skits and, again, voices and those things. And now you see all the inner workings. I don't know that that's necessarily better.
Yeah. Well, it's it's one of those stories too that you coming to radio, it connects to those, your upbringing, those formative years, those memories, and you performing those skits,
Yep.
Living above a funeral home, and performing those skits, and just being able to translate that in some form or another to a career.
Yeah, it has turned into a long career.
So as it progressed from, just like the stuff you would do as a kid and whatever else, and you're pursuing a career in radio, tell me about your first day behind a live microphone, your first time on the air speaking to people.
My first job was in New Ulm, Minnesota, right after I got out of broadcasting school. And New Ulm is a pretty small town in south central Minnesota. And they were bringing a new FM station on the air, but originally I was on the AM side, which played polka music and farm reports. And
Very Midwestern.
Very Midwest. And I think one of the first air shifts I did on KNUJ, they would give you live commercial reads about farm implements that are 4-syllable words. That's what I remember, is reading that copy really, really quickly so everyone wouldn't realize I had no idea what I was talking about or how to pronounce those words.
It's like you were an actress in a medical drama
Exactly.
or something like that,
Exactly.
trying to pronounce
Stat.
all these words. Yes.
Hydrostat. I need one of those pointy things. Yes.
Yeah. Some complicated terminology, but that gave you some experience.
It
then,
did.
right?
It absolutely did. I remember very clearly my first night at the Mix. So I was at KNUJ in Minnesota for about 3 years, moved back to Wisconsin, got my job at the Mix where I started on overnights. And my first night on overnights, I opened up the microphone to give the forecast. And remember the opening of the Brady Bunch, where it's just the Bradys and then it breaks into multiples and multiples and multiples? That's what I saw when I cracked open the microphone. I saw hundreds and thousands and millions of people, and I started hyperventilating. And I'm trying to give the forecast, and I can't breathe, and I sound like I'm choking, and I get it out and go to the next song, and the phone rings. And I answered it, and it was a listener who said, "I'm really worried about that disc jockey. Is she having a heart attack? Should I send someone over?" I'm like, "No, it's me. I'm fine." He actually stayed in touch with me for many years, and I heard from him when I first started here.
Oh, wow.
He was my guardian angel.
Wow, that's
He was
really
my
wonderful.
guardian angel, and he's always checked
From the
in
very
with me.
first day.
From the very first day at the Mix. Yep. And I just thought that was so sweet and also indicative of how bad I sounded. So, yes, it was not good.
Well, I'm sure you sounded wonderful. And it's, it had to be exciting for you to be
Very
on
exciting.
the air in Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
In the biggest market in the state.
Absolutely.
And to even have that opportunity in the evening radio. And what time was it that you were?
Midnight to 6.
It was midnight to 6.
Midnight
so
to
you
6.
were third shift.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I will say that every weirdo in the world calls you about 3:30 in the morning with interesting requests. I got really good at handling obscene phone callers because, of course, this was back before caller ID.
Sure.
So you answered the phone every time it rang. And the heavy breathing and the obscene comments. So I actually wrote up a list of comebacks dependent upon the disgusting thing they would say to me. because my goal became to get them to hang up on me first. I wanted to see if I could out-weird them. And a couple of times I won. Granted, I was the only one who knew that I won, but I carried that paper around for years. I wish I still had it. I wish I still had it.
I wish you did too,
Yeah.
because that would be really fun to
It was like,
revisit.
wow, I didn't know people had phones in their bathroom.
Well, that's such a Jane story to just like, you know what, I'm gonna out-weird you.
I'm gonna beat you
Yeah,
at this.
yeah. I'm gonna up the ante
I'm
here.
gonna beat you at this.
Yeah.
Bring it on. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So you started in Minnesota. You ended up in Milwaukee doing the night shift.
Doing the
there.
night shift only for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then the general manager, Jack Lee, also known as Jim Beasley, who was the GM of the mix at the time, had suggested that they move me to mornings, which is quite a promotion, considering I was very new into radio and I hadn't been doing it for so very long. And they moved me to mornings after about 4 months. And that began my career at the mix of being the Black Widow of Milwaukee morning radio. Because over the course of 24 years and 8 months, I had 9 different partners. It wasn't my fault. They didn't ask me when they fired people.
It's not Jane's fault.
It's not my fault.
It's important to note this.
It wasn't my fault.
Yes. But it was like what? The Spinal Tap drummer was like, it was kind of like Jane's co-host was the same situation.
There's
right?
another one who self-combusted, and some lasted 3 months, some lasted 3 years. But again, it was more of a, we're getting rid of your current partner. Here's the new guy starting on Monday. Make it work.
Yeah, but you were the constant.
I was the constant
through all of that time. So when you reflect, I mean, you were there for a long time.
24 years.
24 years. When you think back to your time on the mix, what really stands out to you, other than the dealing with, or not dealing with, but just managing so many different co-hosts and all of that? What really stands out to you about your connection to Milwaukee, being on the radio and that kind of time and place and all of that? What stands out?
I guess, Dan, my biggest takeaway is honestly how gracious and kind people have been and how welcoming to me they have been for all of these years. Seriously, they treat me like a member of their family, and that means so much. I can't even express what that means to me. I shared bad relationships. I shared losing pets. I've shared, agonizing and embarrassing things. And people always, again, were so kind and lovely to me, with, I would say, the exception of a couple people the last couple of years. That's been interesting.
Well, we don't have to get into that piece of it.
It still makes me laugh.
But I do think, it's a special relationship that you have as a radio broadcaster with your listeners, right?
Without a doubt.
Because it's like you're in that person's head.
We're in their kitchens. We're in their bathrooms. We're in their bedrooms. We're in the car.
Yeah.
And again, because I've been around for so long and have shared parts of my life, people know me. Yeah. And again, it is the loveliest. It is just the loveliest thing. At the same time, because for the most of my career, we were not seen. Mm-hmm. I've been able to live a very private life.
Which is nice.
It's been lovely.
Yeah.
I have a very public job, but I've lived a very private life. And I think for people today, for podcasters and everything, the expectations for what you will share about your life, I think it's really intrusive. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, unnecessary.
Yeah, it changes things a lot.
It does.
Because like now that, I'm on live streams and whatever else, like people will recognize me in Milwaukee sometimes. Right. I was just telling you before, yes. I was getting recognized at No Kings by a guy in a frog suit. But like, it's a different dynamic. And I think the fact that you were able to have, be on the morning show for 24 years and to still be able to just like live your life in Milwaukee like a regular person and not be bombarded and have frog suit people talking to you or whatever it might be.
I would love frog suit people.
I welcome Mr. Frog Suit to have a conversation anytime. But you get my point.
I rarely get recognized. My voice or my laugh that will bust me. But but normally people don't recognize me on site, which doesn't bother me.
Yeah. And I think it was, it's an interesting era for, radio just generally too. Is there, you mentioned the live stream aspect of it. What else do you miss about that kind of pre-internet or early internet era of live radio that you were such a part of for so many years?
Well, and again, it's the parody commercials we used to do and the parody songs that we used to play, and even interviews that we would record in advance because not everyone can join you at 5 o'clock in the morning. And being able to do that without knowing that this was recorded in advance. So again, I have found the cameras very intrusive and has really changed the dynamic of radio. And I don't know that that's necessarily good.
Yeah. Well, because like with the parody stuff, you get this little sandbox you get to play in.
Exactly.
Right? You get this little sandbox that you get to do your own thing.
Right.
And you and the other folks who are working on the show, you can just kind of try stuff. Because like if you're on the you're on the air every day, every weekday, you're just going to have to get super creative to do what you're going to do.
And make up silly things.
Yes. And that, I think, leads us into what I think we should probably spend, hours talking about. One of the absolute stone cold classics of Milwaukee radio, the Pack Arena.
The Pack Arena.
So tell me about the Pack Arena. For those who might not know, might not have been around in the 90s for the craze of the Macarena or the craze of that particular Packers team in 1996. Tell us about the full story of the Pack Arena.
The Pack Arena was born. Brian Kelly was our program director at WMYX, and it was his idea to come up with some kind of a parody song. The Macarena was a huge global hit that everybody recognized. And so he came to...
Me and my sister were doing it as kids.
I
of
bet.
Course.
Everybody was doing it. And came to my partner at the time, Dan Weber, and Mike Clemens, who was our producer, that's a whole kind of full circle thing that Mike is now working for Civic Media.
6 degrees of Jane Matenaer.
Yeah, seriously. And came to the three of us and said, here's what I want to do, write some lyrics. And so we did.
So you did.
We all did. And all three of us took different parts in writing different parts. And then Brian Kelly and I went down to Chicago, down to the Loop, and recorded for hours until about 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, and then I drove back and got 2 hours of sleep and went back on the air, and we debuted it. And over the course of the months that we played it, we raised over $90,000 for the Child Abuse Prevention Fund. These were all on cassettes. They were $5 a piece. We got requests from all over the world. We had a world map up in the studio for all the places where we mailed cassettes, because that was the process.
That's
at the
what you
time.
do in 1996.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what you did. So it turned out to be a huge hit. We had an event at what was still County Stadium, and sold it out, and it was quite a craze. It was quite a craze.
Well, and you merged it's a perfect combination of things that where people were getting excited. I mean, that Packers team was a phenomenon with Brett Favre, and the fact that the Packers
Reggie White
going in, Reggie White, and you had each player on that team it was a team with a lot of personalities, and you were able to kind of fit that into this parody song in such a funny way. Like it still endures. I listened to it recently. It holds up.
Well, thank you. I wish there had been that much thought involved. It was more about counting syllables.
Sure, yeah.
Brett and a Reggie. Yeah, it was about counting syllables and making it work out and rhyme.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we should work in so and so.
Yeah.
That it wasn't that thoughtful.
But you were, and like you said, you were able to raise some money with it.
We raised a considerable amount of money.
Yeah. And it was a statewide phenomenon, got some national attention, and even beyond that.
It did.
So tell me about that.
That's probably one of my proudest things. The captain of the space shuttle at that time was from Wisconsin. And they
like the space shuttle,
the space shuttle
NASA.
in space, like NASA in space, floating over our heads. And for the wake up call on the space shuttle one morning, they played the Pack Arena.
because the
Because-
Wisconsin connection.
Because of the
There's always
Wisconsin,
a
because the
Wisconsin
commander
connection.
was from Wisconsin.
Yes.
And so there is videotape of him floating around in the space shuttle doing the Pac Arena to my voice, which I will live on that forever.
Oh, that's amazing.
So
That's amazing.
If the aliens ever come and attack, it might be my fault.
Or they're why they want to visit and,
Exactly, and
make,
become
some
Packers
sort of
fans.
utopian society of Packers fans.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, it's so fun, and I think it's just the cassettes, the song it's so of its era too, and it's just like
absolutely.
it exists as this kind of time capsule of Wisconsin,
Yep.
of Milwaukee radio, and the way you were able to approach things, and brought a lot of joy to a lot of people.
It was a blast. It really was a blast, and none of us thought that it would turn into what it did. It really took off, and it genuinely surprised us.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. They should, I feel like there's been a couple different times over the years where there's been like an attempt at a Packers parody song, but you can't.
It
can't
has
match
never
the
been
original.
matched, and we
Yeah.
tried because
Yeah.
we did a couple other songs after that
Yeah.
that had nowhere near the response. So it was a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. Well, and a legendary one, a legendary one-hit wonder at that. So what are some of the other things that stand out to you that maybe have some similarities with the Pac Arena that you were able to do, kind of in that era on your morning show?
Well, we did when I was at the Mix. We did Stuff the Bus, and that was something that we started actually on the morning show. The day before Thanksgiving, we would have a bus at a local grocery store, and the goal was to fill up the bus with donated food items for local food pantries. That turned into an enormous fundraiser, and we did that for years. What I remember for the first ones, we did them in a tent outside the day before Thanksgiving. There was no internet then, and I was doing news.
Sure.
So I would have to get up 3 hours ahead of time to get all of my stuff prepped before we would go out to the site. And then we didn't have heaters. We we became much more sophisticated as time went on.
Sure.
But those first couple of years were interesting. People are so generous, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsinites have always blown my mind with their generosity, their compassion, their willingness to help out other people who are less fortunate. I used to cry every year after we would finish because there would be so many people who were not driving up in BMWs. They're driving up in a piece of junk station wagon
Mm-hmm.
full of groceries. And they would tell their stories about how they struggled at one point and needed a food pantry, and now they were in a position to give back. It was so reaffirming.
Yeah.
It
And
was
you
just
gave
so
them that
reaffirming.
opportunity to do that too, and that's part of the story too. That's part of what you've been the many great things you've been able to do in radio, not just connect with your listeners all the time, but really make a difference here in projects like this.
Well, and sometimes I might have tried to shame a couple people too. Where are all you Brookfield soccer moms? Why haven't you come and donated yet? But anyway.
But anyway,
Maybe
it worked. Maybe
I think a couple times it actually did.
Shame occasionally works.
It
in these
does.
types
Well,
of
it
things.
used to anyway. We're past that
We're
now.
in a post-shame.
Yeah, we're in a post-shame world now.
Yeah. So you had another, I guess, kind of, I don't know if you would call it viral sensation, but something that at least like broke containment, broke out of the kind of space that your show occupied and all of that. You were on Regis.
Oh God, yes.
Was this in the 90s too?
This was also in the 90s, I believe. Regis and Kathy Lee.
Was it with Kathy Lee?
It was
Okay.
Regis and Kathy Lee, and Kathy Lee was leaving, or someone was leaving. One of Regis's partners was leaving.
Okay.
So they started a promotion to find the replacement.
Okay.
And this was really brilliant of the people who produced that show, because that got radio and TV stations all over the country talking about that show. So the idea was to have people audition for this spot, and they opened it up to women of radio. So I did an audition for the Regis show which got played on national television. And it looks like I'm naked behind a boombox, although I'm wearing a swimming suit. But I did write a blues.
I'm sorry. Let's say that one more time.
It looks like I'm naked behind this giant boombox. I'm wearing a swimming suit. Calm down. And I did not, obviously, get selected, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
And Regis himself reacted to that.
Yeah,
on the
not
show.
necessarily favorably. He told me I should wear a mask, which I've heard from other people, but that's why there should be no cameras in radio studios anyway.
Be the most as an absolute must. Check out my apple pie crust. Regis, I've got those live with Regis Blue.
Scary. The least the last one can do is wear a Regis mask.
Anything else like that really stood out to you?
I think how lucky I've been to have access to things because of this job.
Yeah.
So I broadcast from sitting outside on a billboard above I-94. I got to go up on a hot air balloon with the Milwaukee County Zoo. I went up in a trick biplane and did hammerheads and all kinds of tricks, and then came down on the ground and pulled over on the freeway so I could get sick, but that's another story. I climbed the mast of a tall ship and helped furl the sail. I got to go into the basement of the Milwaukee Public Museum and see all of their archives. I got to go behind the scenes at the Milwaukee County Zoo and do things like that. I've been so blessed and so fortunate to be able to do that as part of my job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and some of the people I've had the opportunity to talk to. I talked to Vincent Price. I talked to Tom Brokaw. I talked to Leonard Nimoy, trying not to fangirl all over these people. And it was things like that. But again, it's the daily people calling in. Hey, I saw this funny thing I wanted to share with you. Hey, this thing you talked about made me think and go research it further. You made me laugh. Has always been the biggest compliment and the biggest gift I have ever gotten.
And you have so many stories now.
Lots of stories.
So many. Whenever there's a Jane story that gets rolling, I always am just like,
oh God, what next?
Yeah. But yeah, I was looking up to you had you talked about some of the guests that you've had over the years that you were starstruck by.
Yep.
I saw that you said in an On Milwaukee interview from 2007.
Oh my!
This is how annoying I am with research.
Oh wow!
I found that you said that most starstruck you've ever been was with Tom Brokaw and Valerie Harper.
Oh, and Valerie Harper, I got to meet face to face when I was in high school, and the Mary Tyler Moore Show was on. And Rhoda was a big character on Mary Tyler Moore, played by Valerie Harper.
Mm-hmm.
And Rhoda would wear scarves on her head. It was a very 70s thing. And so I started mimicking that in high school. And my nickname became Rhoda. I was Rhoda because of the scarves. And ultimately, I got to meet Valerie Harper. And when that opportunity came up, it was like I was getting ready for a date. I went home, I showered, I fixed my hair, I put on my nicest outfit, and then I sat next to her and I just wanted to cry. It's like, I love you so much. I don't know what to tell you, what you mean to me. And she was so gracious and so lovely. And she was just, I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it was lovely.
So it was one of those situations where you said you were starstruck and unable to stop yourself from talking.
Right.
Because I feel like there can be starstruck and you're just,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Well, I was just trying not to cry all over her. It's like, I love you so much. I can't tell you what you meant to me. And it was lovely. She was just lovely. And Tom Brokaw, that was a phone interview, but him too. It's like, I have so much admiration for you and your work and your ethics. And again, what a gift. I'm from a small town. I'm a mortician's daughter from a small town in Wisconsin. I never expected I would have these opportunities or these opportunities to talk to people like that.
Yeah.
And even what I do now here at Civic Media, I have learned so much because of the people we've been lucky enough to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
All of these experts in their fields, and it's been a gift.
Any other celebrity interviews that stand out to you, either good or bad?
Yes. Weird Al Yankovic was not a good interview.
Oh, that's a bummer. I like Weird Al.
I know. I love Weird
Yeah.
Al. He was very serious. He was very difficult. Even more difficult was Steven Seagal,
That makes more sense. though.
which I did later on when I was on 93.3, and my co-host CV, the only all-female morning show in Milwaukee, and we had Steven Seagal on, who was promoting some show. He was so bored and so obviously bored during this interview that we added crickets after we
Oh, wow.
pre-recorded it. I said, throw in some crickets in there for these long gaps where Steven Seagal was, I don't know, napping, whatever.
So what, you ask him a question and he just sits
and
there?
you just and you wait
Yeah.
and you wait. It's like, you awake? Hello, check, check. Yeah, so we played it back with crickets, which I thought was hilarious.
That's pretty
Program director wasn't so amused, but I thought it was funny.
fun. Yeah, well, you know.
Oh, and then my favorite bad interview story, Uncle Cracker.
Oh, no.
We were backstage at the Riverside Theater, and I had done a little research, and I'm trying to find things I can ask him. And so we're doing this live. We cut in live, and we're backstage with Uncle Cracker, and I get the microphone, and I said, hey, I just saw that your wife just had another baby. Congratulations. And he looked at me, and he said, yeah, we're not sure it's mine.
Oh, no.
Well, okay then. How's traveling? Yeah, that was unexpected.
That's going to stop you for a minute.
That kind of stopped for
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we're live. It's like I didn't
Right.
know. It's like, okay then. Well, thanks, Uncle Cracker. It's been fun.
Yeah, yeah. That's good stuff. Well, it's just every time there's a Jane story, it's just you got to clear out and let you tell that story. So you talked about being on WMYX for 24 years, you said, right?
Yep.
And then you were on 93.3 starting in 2010.
Correct.
You were there for several years.
About 5 years.
You then joined WTMJ.
Yep.
It's what I found was 2017.
2017.
We're on that show for a while. And did that, that progression there, did that kind of allow you to start, talking more about the news or talking more about just like the day-to-day being back on the AM side of the dial versus FM?
Well, that was a big switch for me because I
Yeah.
had done only music radio up to that point.
Yeah, yeah.
I am not a journalist. I have great respect for people who are journalists. I am not a journalist. But the opportunity at TMJ was a chance to do reporting and to do some news. And I had always been interested in the news. I had a lot of opinions about the news.
You have opinions?
I know it's shocking, but it was a great opportunity for me to expand my skill set. And I hopefully that's what I did. I mean, I learned how to edit. I learned how to track down stories. They allowed me to do feature stories. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. It really was.
Mhm.
And a completely different side of radio
Yeah.
than
Yeah, yeah.
all of the things I had done up to that point.
Right. You weren't doing Pacarena parody songs on the
Not so
on the
much.
news talk morning show.
No,
It's
not
the same
so
way.
much.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely helped me prepare for my role then that I ultimately took over here at Civic Media.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like there is that progression there, right?
Yep.
You were on the morning show on the FM side of the dial. You're on AM, and then you come to Civic Media. You work on As Goes Wisconsin, and,
Yes.
and then you have your own show.
And I really want to give a big shout out to Civic Media for this. There are very few media companies in particular that will give a 60-something-ish woman her own show. It doesn't happen. Certainly not someone my age. They want someone younger, prettier, but that's just the nature of the business. It is a visual business. So I have been so fortunate to be given this opportunity and for them to trust me with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's not something I I came with Kristen when Kristen came here to Civic Media.
Right. Yeah.
And I started as her producer, which again to me was another opportunity to learn things I had never done before.
Mhm.
And I loved producing. I really did. I loved producing for
Well,
her.
And I was a regular guest starting at the very beginning of that
Right.
show. And I always got such a kick out of your producing because you would find these songs.
Oh, I would spend hours.
You would find these songs, the bumper music coming in and out of the break. I would just be dying because you find something and it was just like, how did she find this? This is perfect. And it's just like, you had a lot of fun with that.
I had so much. I would spend hours on that, Dan. If we were talking to someone about pianos, it's like I'm going to find a piano song. If we're talking to someone about snails, I am finding a song about snails. There are more songs about douchebags than you have ever realized until you do a Google search when you're looking for one. You'd be surprised how many options there are. That
Well,
might have been in relation to Aaron Rodgers. I can't remember. Or Brett Favre. I'm confused. Anyway.
Or both.
Could be.
Yeah. But, so you were the ace producer here with Kristen picking out the songs for us and all of that. And then you became the host of your own show.
I did.
And you've been doing that for several years now.
A couple years.
What has this experience meant to you?
It has been life-changing for me. It really has. It's been life-changing for me. It's been a huge education. It has taught me to really look at information, probably from a different way, a little more skeptical, a little more questioning about who is the source, who owns the source. That's all stuff that we have to look at now that I think is very, very important. And it has also taught me, again, just to be a little bit more discerning about information. And because we cover things that are so heavy and can be so dark, I have always believed it is important to keep some levity somewhere.
Yeah.
That's why we do audio sorbet for the last half an hour of the show now, because for me personally, I have to laugh or I'm going to explode. That's how I deal with things. That's my coping mechanism is jokes and silly things. And granted, we are in very serious times right now. I don't ever want people to think that I don't appreciate that. But at the same time, if you don't have a release valve for some of this anxiety, you're going to explode. And that's not healthy.
And I think humor matters a lot.
It does.
In politics.
For me, it's life-saving.
It's a human, it makes it a human experience.
Right.
Because you can't just be on tilt every second with the outrage. Not that it wouldn't be unwarranted, but it's just like you have to still be a person with it. And the relationship that you've had with Greg on the show and
so great.
The chemistry that you two have had and just the way that you'll approach different issues and you get each other's sense of humor and all of that too. And I think that has brought such a unique element to this show and this chapter of your career.
Well, and I want people to understand I wouldn't have been able to do a show by myself if it weren't for Greg. If it weren't for Greg sitting across from me, I was never comfortable enough with just doing this myself. I prefer to play off of someone.
Yeah.
I think it's more interesting. I think it provides different perspectives, and it's a friend.
Yeah.
It's having a friend across from me on the table. So Greg has been instrumental in Matenaer On Air and what we've done and hopefully have connected with folks.
And keeping that comedic, lighthearted
Just some
element
levity
to
you
it
gotta
as well.
have, right?
Yeah.
I am always amazed by some of my colleagues who will do 3 hours of nothing but shouting and anger. I don't know how you survive.
I mean, to each their own. Everybody's got their own way of doing it.
Absolutely.
I couldn't do it either.
I couldn't. I couldn't. I would be a miserable person.
Well, you and Greg have found the right formula to make each other laugh, to make your listeners laugh, and all of that. And it's been such a joy to be able to join you every week to have these conversations. Our Friday segments recombobulating on the week that was. We have just this insane politics in our state that we talk about all the time, but we always find a moment, whether it's with audio sorbet or with just goofy jokes that we'll have between us. It's just been such a joy to be able to be to learn from you, to be across the table from you, to have this experience. It's something I really treasure too.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. And by the way, I don't want to forget Calvin Butenhoff, as our producer, has been with us since the beginning of the show as well. And he's also been a very, very important piece of this, as has everyone at Civic Media. Radio is a group sport.
Yeah.
Radio is a group sport. This doesn't happen without a whole bunch of people in the background who get no props. They get no love. They don't get any shout outs. It takes a whole bunch of people to make these things happen.
Absolutely. Shout out to everyone behind the scenes.
Amen.
For sure. Well, I we'll go through. We can talk about some of my weird internet research another time. I want to wrap up here with something that you wrap up every show about.
Yep.
Is talking about joy.
Yep.
You always end every show talking about joy.
Yep.
Why?
We have to find joy. It doesn't always land right in your lap, and it might not be a great big thing. It can be a small exchange with someone at a grocery store. I was at the grocery store last year. I will never forget this. And I had a coat on. These two women in a truck stopped the truck to compliment my coat and how nice I looked in that coat. And we stood and chatted in the grocery store parking lot for 5 minutes about coats and happiness and all those things. That made my whole day better. It did. And I think, especially today, with so much going on and so much bad news, it is more important than ever that we recognize and seek out those little moments that give you hope, that give you promise, that give you joy. Those are precious things. They're precious, precious things. And we need to cultivate that. And sometimes you have to look for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be the smallest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can take that thing and share it or do it or be it. And the one thing I want people to recognize too, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better off you are. If someone tells you you shouldn't read a book, that's the first book you should read. Don't be afraid. Don't be silenced. Find some joy and find some community. And we'll keep fighting forward together.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks, Dan.
Can I talk you into staying?
Sure.
Just one.
Sure.
Can you stay? No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Thank you so much, Jane.